Hi. So, when talking about change is one of those things that's never going to stop. And the way you think about it, the way you frame it, the way you talk about it to others, employees, managers, stakeholders, friends, will also impact how you view change and how you're able to make sense of it and move forward. Today, I'm going to walk through a solution focused framework or theory of change that I use when working with organizations and coaching leaders to better make sense of struggles and change they're going through, to amplify what's working, and to dampen or decrease what's not working. When we think about change, the metaphors and the existing theories we use will frame how we see it going forward. If you view change as death, stagnation, resistance, then you're going to enter into a change process or see a change in your environment as death, stagnation, or change process. When thinking about it, reframing change to see it as a continual process and the idea of stability being an illusion or a memory of one moment during the process of changing will remind you that things are always moving. Change is happening consistently. Whether you want it to or not, we are part of reality. And reality will impact our perception and our change. And things move forward. So when you look back and remember a stable time, or remember a point when things seemed less changing or less chaotic, what you're remembering is a static illusion, like a picture, an image or a snapshot of the past. That's not a dynamic process. Change is always happening around us. What I have here is a 7-step, what I call sense making model for solution focused change. Now, when I say solution focused, what I mean is looking at identifying what the current challenge or problem is, what change you want to see happen, and what that looks like, how to use your own resources and skills as an effective way to make the change happen, and ways you'll be able to identify clues or indicators of success or change as you're going forward. I'm going to go through these in a semi-linear fashion, yet realize they are all interconnected and there's no linear causal. They all happen at the same time, overlapping. The first part to think about when going through change, or a part to think about when going through change or framing change, is to say, what are the boundaries? And by boundaries, I mean, what are the parts of change that we can change? So, what things are off the table? If I'm asking you inside your, if you and I are working together and I'm coaching you, I'll probably ask you, what kind of things can we change? What sort of things are off the table and not open for discussion? We're trying to figure out, where are the boundaries? What does it look like? What parts are inside the change process that we can control and have some aspect of focus over? Another part to think about is understanding your environment. And by understanding your environment, what I mean is looking at currently, right now, what patterns are you recognizing? What's going well? What's not going well? What current resources do you have? How did you get those? What does your environment look like? If you are in a company or you're looking at it from a corporate perspective, my organization development work, who are our competitors? What are they doing? What's the resources we have? What's the staff look like? Trying to figure out in many ways what the current environment is. And that's like looking at a map. So if you're going to go on a trip, you're going to drive from place A to place B, you want to know, what's the environment like? What's the weather like? How much gas do I have in my car? How long will it take me to get there? Do I need snacks? Are there places for me to stop and go to the bathroom? All these parts you want to be aware of. What's the weather like? Is there ice on the road? Is there snow? Is it rainy? So once we frame the boundaries and we start looking at the environment, now we're figuring out inside these boundaries, what's the environment inside here and what can we do with that? Next part to look at is determining what is working to increase. This is a common solution focused practice, meaning we have our boundaries, we understand our environment. Inside the environment, what parts can we amplify? What parts that are working relatively well right now can we use and make louder to amplify in the environment to increase those things happening? How can we do those? Going in detail on how we can make those things louder, what we can increase. Determine what is not working to decrease. These are your amplification dampening processes. We have the boundaries, we know the environment, what is working to increase, what is not working that we can decrease. So if we find, for example, that you are working inside a company and we identified the boundaries, where are the edges, what's on the table, what's off the table, what can we do, what can we change, how can we know? We have our environment, we know our implementation plans, how we execute things or get things completed. We have a strategy. We know what our strategies are. We know what our cash flow is. We have our processes. We have a people map. We understand some of those things. We talked about those as a group. Then we said, okay, so inside these parts, what's working well we want to do more of? So it might be looking at a geographic area and selling a certain product or service in that area because it's already showing early signs of success. We want to push harder on that and put resources towards that. That's framing the change. What's not working to decrease, that may be saying, for example, in the same example, in geographic area Q, we see we're losing sales and we're currently putting too much money and resources towards that. Can we do less work there, decrease resources, people, process, and revenue, and move it to another area? On a personal note, you have your boundaries, you understand what your environment is, who you have access to, what you're doing. An area to increase might be, on a personal note, let's say you want to get better at networking and integrating yourself and meeting new people at networking meetings. So you'll find out what's working well in those networking meetings, what works well to help you make new friends and create new connections to increase your network. How do you do those? What are those things? What's not working so well might be you choosing to stay home and not go to networking meetings. So you would decrease that piece. Next is understanding that each person is the expert of their domain. What I mean by this is you are the expert of your life. You understand your work, and you understand your work in the context of how you do your work in your own process. As humans, right, we have intelligence and we know what we know. We have our brains, we know, we have intelligence, we have those things. We have intention. So my intention is to get the task done by Tuesday, or I intend to close more sales, or I intend to write better marketing copy. That's an intention that also aligns with my intelligence and they interplay. And then we also have identity. So who am I? An identity is formed over a period of time, but I have that expert in my area. And you have your expertise. Your expertise might be on things like SEO marketing, or it might be on selling selling wallets in markets where there is a young millennial community. That's your expertise. We need to respect that each person is the expert of their domain, and I cannot tell you what to do. And the final part inside this solution-focused frame of change is that cooperating and resisting cannot be perceived at the same time. That is similar to what I said in the beginning about thinking about your metaphors. If I'm waking up in the morning and I want to work on developing useful change, so I want to be friendlier to people, I like to exercise more. I want to drink less alcohol. I want to create greater friendships in my workplace. I need to be in an effort of trying to find people cooperating with me. If I wake up and think about them cooperating, I'll see cooperation. I'll treat people as if they're cooperating. They'll see that, it'll reinforce the loop. Now, on the other end, if I think you're resisting, so I wake up, or better yet, I go to a networking meeting and I think people aren't going to like me, or I go to a sales meeting and inside my head, I've already said they're going to resist my sales pitch because they, for some reason, don't like me. I'm going to behave in a manner that's showing resistance. They're going to pick up on that and they're going to perceive that, which means cooperating, moving with the process, and resisting, fighting against the process, can't be perceived at the same time. They are antipodal. You have to think about that. So, inside this framework for solution focused change, these are the areas: is framing the boundaries, understand your environments, determine what is working to increase, determine what is not working to decrease, understand and respect each person as the expert in their domain. When you're walking into change, personally or with a group or as a person who works with people who have to change your workplace, realize you cannot be cooperating and resisting. It can't be perceived at the same time. And the final part to think about is that progress and solutions are co-constructed. What does that mean? It means that there is a interactional component between you and I, or you and your team, or you and your organization, or you and your family, you and your network, you and your community, those things. And they happen together. You have your ideas, your expertise in your domain and your boundaries and your environment. They have their ideas, their expertise, their domain, their environment. Together, you co-construct, you build it together. And by the interaction and discussion of the solution focused frame, you begin to identify achievable goals that you both want to work towards. And that is how change happens. So be thoughtful about how you frame your metaphors, how you frame your language, and how you walk into change, seeing it as a holistic piece of multiple cooperating parts. And this final quote by Steve H. Azar, who's the founding creator of Solution Focused with Inzu Kim Berg, he said, splitting a whole system being people integrated together, splitting it into parts, meaning taking it apart, analyzing it, leads to imaginary oppositions and pathological communications. When you think about change, think about your metaphors. Begin to see change as a solution-focused effort where you can frame your boundaries, understand your environment, identify what is working to increase, identify what is not working to decrease, respect yourself and your knowledge and your domain expertise as much as you respect my knowledge and my expertise. We work together. You cannot see cooperating and resisting at the same time. You have to find ways to create cooperation and to look for somebody being cooperating with your goals. Sometimes I joke, but I sincerely mean it. When I'm working inside companies, I might recognize somebody resisting my ideas or my advice as their way of cooperating. So when I see the resisting as a way of cooperating, I treat them as if they are cooperating, and that in turn helps to create and construct, co-construct solutions to move forward. Think about this. Begin to see change as a constant, and it is never going to be a stable time. Once you have stability, it's an idea or an illusion you had that you try to hold on to. And the more you hold on to it is the more you're resisting the change being a process going forward. Thank you. I'm Mike Cardus from Organization Development by Mike Cardus. And think about change.